Pan Am was founded in 1927 by Juan Trippe, a visionary entrepreneur who dreamed of making air travel accessible and global. What started as a small mail service between Key West and Havana quickly expanded into an international airline that connected continents. Pan Am became known for its innovation, pioneering air routes, and introducing new aircraft that pushed the boundaries of aviation. During the 1930s and 1940s, Pan Am launched the famous Clipper flying boats, which allowed passengers to cross oceans in unprecedented luxury. These massive aircraft carried celebrities, business leaders, and politicians, giving Pan Am an aura of prestige unmatched by any other airline. The Clippers introduced an era where international travel, previously an unimaginable luxury, became a sophisticated experience available to the affluent class. By the 1950s, Pan Am had established itself as the premier international carrier, introducing jet aircraft like the Boeing 707, which drastically reduced flight times and made global travel more accessible. The airline's reach expanded across 6 continents, making Pan Am the first truly global airline. Its dominance was unchallenged, and it became the preferred airline of government officials, business executives, and Hollywood stars. The 1960s and 1970s marked the height of Pan Am's success. The airline became synonymous with luxury, offering fine dining, comfortable seating, and impeccable service. It was the first airline to operate the Boeing 747, the world's first jumbo jet, making long-haul flights more efficient and affordable. The introduction of the 747 revolutionized air travel by increasing passenger capacity and reducing ticket prices, making international travel accessible to a broader audience. Pan Am's blue globe logo became a symbol of adventure and sophistication, and its crews were among the most respected in the industry. The airline stewards and stewardesses, dressed in elegant uniforms, became cultural icons, embodying the golden age of aviation. Pan Am's influence extended beyond aviation. It played a crucial role in promoting international travel and tourism, opening up destinations that had previously been inaccessible. The airline's advertising campaigns encouraged Americans to explore the world, making air travel a mainstream experience rather than a luxury for the elite. The launch of Pan Am's intercontinental hotels further solidified its role in shaping global tourism, offering travelers seamless accommodations across its network. Pan Am also introduced the first computerized reservation system, streamlining ticket bookings and setting new standards for airline operations worldwide. Beyond commercial success, Pan Am was also instrumental in diplomatic missions and emergency evacuations. It played a key role in airlifting refugees and military personnel during global crises, reinforcing its reputation as an essential player in international relations. Additionally, the airline was heavily involved in shaping air traffic rights, negotiating agreements that expanded global aviation routes and increased international connectivity. Pan Am didn't just sell airline tickets, it sold the dream of exploring the world. Its advertising featured exotic destinations, glamorous travelers, and a promise of luxury that made flying with Pan Am an aspirational experience. The airline's in-flight experience set the standard for the industry, with gourmet meals, spacious seating, and a level of service that modern airlines struggle to match. Its exclusive first-class lounges and VIP services cemented its status as the airline of choice for the world's elite. However, beneath the surface, problems were beginning to emerge that would eventually lead to the airline's downfall. As competition increased, fuel prices surged, and the global economy shifted, Pan Am's heavy investments in prestige and expansion became difficult to sustain. While the airline continued to project an image of luxury and innovation, it faced growing financial and operational challenges that threatened its long-term survival. Despite its dominance, Pan Am faced growing challenges in the 1970s. The airline had focused heavily on international routes and neglected the domestic market, leaving it vulnerable to competitors like American Airlines and United Airlines, which had a strong foothold in the U.S. Unlike its rivals, Pan Am lacked a strong domestic feeder network, meaning that while it could efficiently transport passengers across continents, it struggled to fill its flights from U.S. cities to its international hubs. This left a significant gap in its operations and made it dependent on passengers originating from outside the United States. Pan Am's reliance on premium services also made it less competitive as new airlines introduced lower-cost options. The emergence of airlines offering no-frills travel at reduced fares began to erode Pan Am's dominance, particularly as budget-conscious travelers opted for cheaper alternatives. Meanwhile, the increasing deregulation of the airline industry meant that new competitors were able to offer competitive pricing, something that Pan Am, with its high operating costs, struggled to match. The 1973 oil crisis hit the airline industry hard, driving up fuel prices and cutting into profits. Pan Am's large aircraft, including the Boeing 747, became expensive to operate during periods of low demand. While the 747 was an engineering marvel that revolutionized long-haul travel, its size made it difficult to fill during economic downturns, forcing Pan Am to operate at a loss on many routes. The airline's decision to continue expanding its fleet of large aircraft, rather than diversifying into smaller, more fuel-efficient planes, exacerbated the financial strain. At the same time, airline deregulation in the late 1970s introduced new competition, forcing Pan Am to lower fares and reduce service quality. Prior to deregulation, airlines like Pan Am operated in a protected environment where the government controlled fares and routes. However, when regulations were lifted, smaller airlines quickly entered the market, offering lower prices and more flexible route structures. Pan Am, unprepared for this shift, found itself struggling to compete against nimble, cost-effective carriers that could operate more efficiently on high-demand domestic and international routes. Additionally, Pan Am's ambitious expansion strategies often placed profitability second to prestige. The airline invested heavily in acquiring new aircraft, opening routes to exotic destinations, and maintaining a luxurious brand image while failing to adapt to changing economic realities. The expansion of its route network into less profitable destinations strained resources, while its focus on maintaining a high-end image limited its ability to attract price-sensitive travelers. Pan Am was slow to introduce more economical seating options or cost-cutting measures, which further weakened its competitive edge. By the late 1970s, Pan Am was facing increasing financial difficulties. While it had been one of the most prestigious airlines in the world,
it had failed to evolve alongside the industry. The airline's inability to adjust to a more competitive marketplace, coupled with rising operational costs and economic downturns, signaled that trouble was on the horizon. What had once been an industry leader was now a company struggling to keep up with the rapidly changing airline landscape. By the 1980s, Pan Am was struggling financially. The airline made a costly attempt to enter the domestic market by purchasing National Airlines in 1980, but the acquisition was poorly executed and failed to strengthen Pan Am's position. Instead of providing a steady flow of domestic passengers to feed Pan Am's international routes, the integration of National Airlines was chaotic, leading to operational inefficiencies, labor disputes, and significant financial losses. The airline was now burdened with debt, struggling to compete with new low-cost carriers and losing its reputation for excellence. Pan Am also faced increasing competition from deregulated airlines that offered lower fares and more flexible flight schedules. While other airlines adapted to the deregulated environment by restructuring their operations, Pan Am remained stuck in an outdated business model, relying on prestige rather than practical solutions to maintain its market share. Instead of reconfiguring its fleet with smaller, more fuel-efficient aircraft, it continued operating large, costly jets on routes that were no longer profitable. The company's financial difficulties were further compounded by volatile fuel prices, rising operational costs, and a weak global economy, all of which drained its remaining resources. Additionally, the airline failed to modernize its operations and reduce costs. Unlike newer airlines that adopted more efficient hub-and-spoke models, Pan Am continued to operate an expensive point-to-point network, making its costs significantly higher than competitors. The lack of a hub system meant that Pan Am had difficulty optimizing flight schedules and aircraft utilization, leading to inefficient operations that put it at a disadvantage against airlines like Delta and American, which were able to streamline costs and maximize revenue through better route planning. The airline also suffered from declining service quality as financial struggles forced cost-cutting measures. Once known for its impeccable service, Pan Am had to make compromises to stay afloat. Staff reductions, aging aircraft interiors, and reduced in-flight amenities contributed to a deteriorating passenger experience, further alienating customers who had once been loyal to the brand. As competitors improved their offerings and adapted to new consumer demands, Pan Am found itself increasingly out of touch with the needs of modern travelers. The terrorist bombing of Pan Am Flight 103 over Lockerbie, Scotland, in 1988 further damaged the airline's reputation. Passenger confidence plummeted, and Pan Am faced lawsuits and increased security costs. The public associated the airline with the tragic event, and despite Pan Am not being at fault for the attack, the negative press and fear surrounding the incident had a lasting impact on ticket sales. Governments worldwide tightened security regulations, leading to increased costs for airlines, but Pan Am, already financially weakened, struggled to absorb these expenses. With declining ticket sales, mounting legal fees, and increasing competition, Pan Am was on the verge of collapse. By the end of the decade, the airline was a shadow of its former self, desperately selling off assets to stay afloat. It was clear that without a major financial turnaround or strategic restructuring, the airline's days were numbered. By the early 1990s, Pan Am was a shadow of its former self. It had been forced to sell off key assets, including lucrative international routes, airport terminals, and a significant portion of its fleet, in a desperate attempt to generate cash flow. However, each asset sale further weakened the airline's ability to compete, leading to a vicious cycle of decline. The Gulf War in 1991 further hurt the airline industry, reducing demand for international travel as fuel prices soared and passenger traffic dropped. Pan Am, already teetering on the edge of bankruptcy, was particularly vulnerable to the downturn. The airline struggled to maintain operations, cutting staff, routes, and services in an attempt to reduce costs. However, these desperate measures only alienated remaining loyal customers, further accelerating its collapse. Despite attempts to secure a financial lifeline, Pan Am could not attract enough investors willing to rescue the failing airline. The company's fragmented and shrinking route network made it an unattractive option for potential buyers. As the industry consolidated around stronger airlines, Pan Am found itself with no room to recover. Unable to recover from its financial struggles, Pan Am declared bankruptcy and ceased operations in December 1991. It was a tragic end to what had once been the most prestigious airline in the world, marking the closure of a company that had revolutionized global travel and defined the golden age of aviation. Pan Am's downfall offers important lessons for businesses and the aviation industry. Adaptation is key. Pan Am failed to adjust to changing market conditions, particularly in the face of deregulation and increasing competition. Diversification matters. The airline's heavy reliance on international routes left it vulnerable to economic downturns and global crises. Financial management is crucial. Poor investments, like the National Airlines acquisition, drained Pan Am's resources and accelerated its decline. Brand reputation must be protected. The Lockerbie bombing severely damaged Pan Am's image, leading to a loss of customer trust and financial instability. Innovation alone isn't enough. While Pan Am pioneered many aviation advancements, its inability to sustain profitability ultimately led to its downfall. Operational efficiency is essential. Pan Am's failure to implement cost-saving measures and adopt more efficient route models made it vulnerable to competitors. Government relations matter. Unlike some competitors that secured government subsidies, Pan Am struggled with high regulatory costs and international restrictions. Although Pan Am no longer exists, its legacy lives on. The airline set the standard for international air travel, inspired generations of aviation professionals, and left an indelible mark on the industry. Today, many of the routes, innovations, and business strategies pioneered by Pan Am continue to influence modern airlines. Pan Am's story serves as both an inspiration and a cautionary tale, showing how even the most dominant companies can fall if they fail to adapt to an evolving world. What do you think? Could Pan Am have survived with better management, or was its collapse inevitable? Let us know in the comments.